What would you do if a stranger completely altered the course of your life in just a few minutes? For one woman, trapped in the invisible chains of control, that's exactly what happened. It started with a single glance on a crowded bus, a look that carried a desperate message no one else seemed to notice. But what followed was far from ordinary. A confrontation that froze everyone in their seats. A fearless intervention that no one saw coming. And a revelation that changed not just her life, but the lives of countless others. What secret was hidden behind that one silent cry for help? This story isn't what you think. It's bigger, deeper, and more unexpected than you could imagine. And there's one moment, one twist, you won't see coming. Stay with us to find out what happened when fate decided to intervene. It all began in the quiet corners of their home, where shadows whispered stories of dominance. The husband's eyes, always watchful, seemed to pierce through walls, monitoring every move his wife made. His words carried sharp edges, often cloaked in jealousy. What should have been a safe haven became a battlefield, where love was replaced by control, and every smile she dared to wear was questioned. He didn't see her as a partner, but as something to possess, fueling an emotional story that would later inspire change. In public, the mask of civility he wore barely concealed his controlling nature. His grip on her arm wasn't one of affection but a leash, reminding her of boundaries she dared not cross. Strangers noticed but hesitated, their compassion buried under societal norms of staying uninvolved. Yet, behind her quiet demeanor, a storm brewed, a longing for freedom, a yearning to reclaim her life. Empathy from others might have been her lifeline, but fear kept her silent. Their relationship became a ticking time bomb, where every minor interaction could ignite his anger. A simple glance, a polite smile at a stranger, these innocent acts were seen as betrayals. It was a romance story that had taken a dark turn, where love became a weapon, and trust was shattered. She bore the weight of his insecurities, each day feeling heavier than the last. Still, hope flickered faintly in her heart, waiting for someone to notice her silent cries. Behind closed doors, his words were daggers, and his actions were chains. He monitored her phone, questioned her friends, and erased her autonomy bit by bit. She wasn't living, she was merely surviving, trapped in a cycle of fear and submission. Yet, even in her darkest moments, she clung to the idea that life didn't have to be this way. Inspiration would come from an unlikely source, but for now, she endured, hoping for a miracle. Their arguments often ended in silence. Not the calm kind, but the heavy, oppressive silence that suffocates. He justified his actions as love, but love doesn't imprison, it liberates. Her heart ached for the freedom to be herself, to laugh without fear of reprimand. It was a cruel irony. The man who vowed to protect her had become the very source of her pain. But change was closer than she realized, waiting just beyond the next turn. Her world was shrinking, suffocated by his constant control. Friends drifted away, afraid of his wrath, and family hesitated to intervene. Yet, amidst the despair, a spark of defiance began to grow within her. She didn't know when or how, but she knew she couldn't continue like this. The courage she needed was out there, waiting to cross paths with her in the most unexpected way. The day began like any other, but the tension between them simmered beneath the surface. On the crowded bus, her husband's jealousy flared as his paranoia painted invisible threats around her. She sat quietly, her hands trembling in her lap, as his voice grew louder, accusing her of seeking attention from strangers. The atmosphere thickened, and passengers glanced nervously, their compassion wavering between concern and fear of involvement. Yet, amidst the chaos, one man couldn't ignore her silent plea. Her eyes darted around the bus, desperate for an escape, but there was none. She avoided his gaze, knowing it would only fuel his anger. As his accusations grew more absurd, she subtly raised her hand to brush her hair, a discreet gesture that only one attentive passenger noticed. This man, seated just a few rows away, watched closely. Something in her body language spoke volumes. Her silence screamed for help, and his empathy stirred to life. The abusive husband's voice echoed through the bus, a harsh symphony of control and humiliation. He lashed out at her for smiling at the ticket collector, accusing her of impropriety. The passengers sat frozen, unsure of what to do. But the compassionate man who had been observing her could no longer sit still. His mind raced with the emotional story unfolding before him, and he knew he had to act. Still, he waited for the right moment, readying himself to step in. Her fear was palpable, yet she managed to hold herself together. The bus ride seemed endless, each second stretching into eternity. The husband's aggressive words turned into physical gestures, his hand tightening on her wrist. The man nearby clenched his fists, wrestling with his own hesitation. He wasn't just witnessing an argument. He was watching a woman drown in a sea of despair. The moment of decision was coming, and he couldn't let it pass. As the bus lurched to a stop, the husband's anger escalated to a dangerous level. He rose from his seat, towering over her, his presence a looming threat. The passengers exchanged uneasy glances, their collective fear keeping them silent. But the compassionate man, inspired by an inner sense of justice, stood up. His voice cut through the tension, firm yet calm, as he addressed the husband directly. It was a bold move, one that would change everything. A uniformed police officer, unnoticed until now, stepped forward. He had been observing the situation from the back of the bus, waiting for a clear sign to intervene. As the compassionate man confronted the husband, the officer joined him, turning the tide in her favor. The abusive husband, caught off guard, stumbled over his own words. The scene shifted dramatically, the balance of power tilting towards justice and empathy. The air on the bus became electric as the husband's fury reached its peak. He leaned over her, his voice a venomous hiss, while she shrank back, barely holding her composure. Passengers exchanged uneasy glances, their discomfort growing as the situation spiraled out of control. The compassionate man who had been silently observing knew this was his moment. With steady resolve, he stood up, his voice calm but firm, cutting through the chaos like a beacon of hope. The husband turned to face him, his expression a mix of anger and disbelief. "This isn't your business," he snapped, his voice laced with defiance. But the man stood his ground, unwavering in his courage. "It's everyone's business when someone's being hurt," he replied, his words a lifeline that reached beyond her immediate plight. His actions inspired a ripple of bravery among the passengers, some of whom began recording the altercation, ensuring the truth wouldn't be silenced. As tension mounted, the uniformed police officer who had been monitoring from the back stepped forward. His authoritative voice commanded attention as he identified himself and intervened. The husband, now visibly shaken, attempted to deflect blame, but the officer wasn't swayed. Compassion met authority in that moment, creating a united front that left no room for his aggression to thrive. The bus became a stage where justice began to unfold. The officer instructed the husband to step aside, but he resisted, his anger flaring anew. The compassionate man didn't waver, standing protectively near the woman who had endured so much. "You're safe now," he assured her softly, his words carrying a weight of sincerity that brought tears to her eyes. The police officer, skilled in de-escalation, calmly but firmly subdued the husband, bringing an end to his reign of control. With the husband restrained, the woman's shoulders visibly relaxed, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her soul. She glanced at the man who had come to her aid, gratitude shimmering in her tearful eyes. In that brief exchange, an unspoken connection was forged, one built on empathy and the shared understanding of what it means to stand up for what's right. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope ignite within her. As the police escorted the husband off the bus, the passengers erupted into quiet murmurs, their relief almost tangible. The compassionate man took a seat beside her, offering his name and a reassuring smile. Though the ordeal had left her shaken, his presence felt like a lifeline, grounding her in a reality where compassion and courage could prevail. Together, they sat in silence, a moment of calm after the storm, as the bus continued its journey. The bus ride had been more than a physical journey. It was a turning point, a bridge between despair and hope. As she stepped off the bus, her hands still trembling, the man who had intervened stayed close, ensuring she felt safe. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, his tone brimming with compassion. It was the first time in years someone had genuinely cared about her well-being, and her heart swelled with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. They sat on a nearby bench, the city's hustle and bustle fading into the background. She shared fragments of her story, her voice shaking as she recounted years of control and fear. He listened intently, his empathy palpable in the way he leaned in and nodded with understanding. His presence was a balm to her wounded spirit, a reminder that kindness could still be found in a world that had seemed so cruel. As days turned into weeks, their paths crossed more often, each encounter deepening their connection. What began as casual conversations blossomed into heartfelt discussions about life, dreams, and second chances. She marveled at his genuine interest in her thoughts and experiences, something she hadn't felt in years. In him, she saw not just a rescuer, but a partner who valued her for who she truly was. Their bond grew stronger with every shared moment. They discovered a mutual passion for helping others, a shared belief that no one should suffer alone. This common ground became the foundation of their budding romance, a love story born not out of convenience but out of shared values and respect. For her, this was more than a new beginning. It was a chance to rediscover herself, to embrace a future where love was not a cage but a sanctuary. In his presence, she began to heal. Her laughter, once suppressed, returned like a melody she thought she had forgotten. He encouraged her to dream again, to believe in possibilities beyond survival. Together, they imagined a life filled with purpose and meaning, one where their painful pasts could fuel something beautiful. She realized that love didn't have to hurt. It could inspire, empower, and transform. One evening, as they walked through the park, he held her hand and said, "You're stronger than you know." His words echoed in her heart, filling the empty spaces left by years of doubt. She smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in ages. Their story was still unfolding, but in that moment, she knew they were writing something extraordinary, together. Their love story wasn't just about two people. It was about transformation and purpose. Together, they decided to turn their shared pain into a force for good. Late one night, sitting at the kitchen table, they sketched out their vision, a sanctuary where women like her could find safety and support. They called it Refuge of Hope, a name that captured their mission to empower others and offer a fresh start to those trapped in abusive cycles. The journey to establish the center wasn't easy, but their determination was unshakable. They pooled their resources, knocked on countless doors for funding, and shared their emotional story with anyone who would listen. Their compassion inspired others to rally behind their cause, and soon, Refuge of Hope began to take shape. It was more than just a shelter. It was a place where women could rebuild their lives, surrounded by empathy and care. The couple ensured that the center wasn't just about providing a roof over someone's head. It offered counseling, legal assistance, and workshops to help women regain their independence. Each program was designed to inspire confidence and reignite a sense of self-worth. They worked tirelessly, pouring their hearts into every detail, knowing that for many, this would be the first step toward a brighter future. Word about the center spread quickly, and women from all walks of life found their way to its doors. Each story was unique, yet heartbreakingly familiar. Tales of control, fear, and lost hope. But in this sanctuary, these women found a community that understood their pain. Refuge of Hope became a symbol of resilience, proving that even the most shattered lives could be pieced back together with compassion and support. For the couple, seeing the transformations in the women they helped was both humbling and fulfilling. They celebrated every milestone, from the first smiles to the confident strides of women who had reclaimed their independence. Each success story reinforced their belief in the power of love and empathy. Refuge of Hope wasn't just a center, it was a testament to what could be achieved when people chose to stand together against injustice. Even as they faced challenges, the couple never wavered. They leaned on each other for strength, finding inspiration in the lives they were changing. Their love had given them a purpose that extended far beyond themselves. Refuge of Hope wasn't just their legacy, it was a promise to the world that no one should have to face their struggles alone. The journey that began with a silent plea on a bus had transformed into a powerful force of change. Refuge of Hope stood as a beacon for those who had lost their way, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light could still be found. The couple often reflected on how their paths had crossed, marveling at the serendipity that turned their pain into something so meaningful. It was proof that resilience, paired with compassion, could create miracles. Each woman who entered the center brought a story that echoed the past but also carried the seeds of a brighter future. The walls of Refuge of Hope weren't just bricks and mortar, they were the silent witnesses of laughter returning, fears fading, and lives being rebuilt. The couple's dedication wasn't just about helping others. It was about showing the world that love and empathy had the power to mend even the deepest wounds. Through workshops, public talks, and online campaigns, they spread their message far and wide. "You are not alone," became the mantra that resonated with every woman who needed to hear it. They didn't just offer help, They offered hope, inspiration, and the belief that change was possible. Refuge of Hope wasn't just a place. It was a movement, encouraging people to stand up, speak out, and extend a helping hand to those in need. The couple's efforts sparked a ripple effect that reached beyond their community. Women who had once sought shelter at the center began to share their stories, becoming advocates for change themselves. They carried the message of resilience and empathy to places the couple couldn't reach. Together, they created a tapestry of hope, woven from the threads of individual courage and collective action. Their story wasn't just about overcoming adversity, it was a testament to the transformative power of love and compassion. The couple's romance, born out of pain, had become a guiding light for countless others. It was a reminder that even in the face of despair, one act of kindness could set off a chain reaction, touching lives in ways that were unimaginable. As they stood before an audience at an event marking the center's 5th anniversary, the couple held hands, their smiles reflecting the journey they had shared. "This isn't just our story," they said. "It's a story of hope, of resilience, and of the incredible strength we all carry within us." Their words lingered, resonating with every listener, a call to action for a world that desperately needed more compassion.